Soapbox. Kicking off our Soapbox speakers today is Congressman Bruce Braley. He's a Democrat from Waterloo. He represents the 1st District there in eastern Iowa. His opponent this fall is Ben Lang, a Republican from Independence. Congressman?
Thanks, Carol, and thanks to the Des Moines Register for making this opportunity available. Welcome to the fair. It's a great day. It's nice not to be completely sweltering out in the hot sun. But today was a very important day because earlier I had the chance to be on the reviewing stand for the Veterans Parade. And it was a very important reminder of the sacrifice that literally thousands of Iowans have made to protect and defend us. So I want to thank all the veterans who are here today for your service and sacrifice. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate you being here at the fair with us today. And when you think about that bond that ties us together as Americans, one of the things I always talk about is how when I was growing up in Brooklyn, Iowa, and you had a problem, nobody asked you whether you were Republican or a Democrat. They asked for your help, and they got it. And that's why I ask every one of you, if you get a chance, to go over to the grandstand and stop by the booth right next to the Department of Criminal Investigations booth, where the families of Lyric Cook and Elizabeth Collins, 2 young girls from Evansdale in Black Hawk County, who disappeared almost a month ago, and we're still trying to find them. I would ask you to keep their families in your prayers and do everything we can to help find these girls and bring them home, because that's what Iowans are all about. You know, I've got a very special guest here. I also have my brother-in-law, Jeff Commence, and his boys are back here from Dubuque. It's great to have all of you here at the fair. But here in the front row, there's a very special person. I talk a lot about the importance of education in Iowa. I don't think that's a partisan issue. I think Iowans, as a general rule, are proud of the emphasis we place on education. We know you can't have innovation and you can't create jobs without a strong education system. Well, I'm very proud because there's a woman sitting in the front row who has been teaching in Iowa in 8 consecutive decades, and it's my mom, Marcia Braley. Stand up, Mom. And my wife, Carolyn, would be things that all Iowans should be concerned about right now, is we have been facing the worst drought since the Great Depression. And it's not a Republican issue, it's not a Democratic issue. It's an issue that affects all Iowans. Because if you are somebody who buys food, your food prices are going to be going higher because of this drought. If you buy fuel, your fuel prices are going up. And if you depend on agriculture for your living, whether you're farming, whether you're working at John Deere or some other implement manufacturer, this drought is going to have significant impact on you. That's why I've been traveling around talking to people who are affected by the Farm Bill and trying to create bipartisan support to bring this bill to the House floor. The Senate has already passed a Farm Bill. They did it in a bipartisan vote. Both Iowa senators voted for the bill. Then it came over to the House Agriculture Committee, which passed the bill out of committee on July 11th in another bipartisan vote. But for some reason, we can't get that bill to the floor of the House for a vote, even though it's set to expire on September 30th. And if Congress doesn't take action, we're going to go back to a 1949 Farm Bill that nobody wants to see. So what can we do about it? Well, I've decided that I want to work with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to bring that bill to the floor, and if the leadership in the House isn't willing to do it, then we're going to try to make them do it by doing something called a discharge petition. And I've got Republican and Democratic colleagues who are working with me as soon as that bill gets reported to the full House so that we can start collecting signatures and get people to put pressure on the leadership to bring that bill to the floor. It's something that affects every Iowan. If you are someone who depends upon agriculture to feed your family, you need to have a blueprint for the next 5 years that tells you how you're going to plan your business operation. If you're somebody who works in biofuels in Iowa, you need to know what's going on in terms of the types of credits and incentives that are going to be available as you make investments on businesses that employ thousands of Iowans. And if you're a consumer who's worried about rising food prices, you need to know what the game has passed in the Senate and signed into law by President Obama. And right now, community colleges in Iowa are using those funds to help train and educate people in biofuels, good-paying jobs that they can stay in Iowa and earn a good living. That's the way Congress is supposed to work. So what I'm here today to talk about is those Iowa values that bring us together. I see a John Wayne t-shirt out here in the audience. Everybody knows John Wayne was born in Winterset. A lot of people don't know that John Wayne moved to my hometown of Brooklyn, Iowa, and went to grade school there. I've got a copy of his first grade report card in my office in Washington, D.C., as a reminder of what makes Iowa special and unique. So when you hear the other candidates that are talking here at the fair this week, in addition to hearing them give their stump speech about what they believe in, I would challenge all of you to ask them what they're doing to bring Iowans together to solve the problems that affect us all. Because when I grew up, it wasn't a matter of whether that was an option, it was something that was expected of you. One of the things that I'm very, very proud of is the way Iowans come together in a time of crisis to help each other out. I was in my hometown of Brooklyn on Friday night at the Brooklyn Raceway, and a good friend of mine and a classmate, Don Waters, was the owner of that racetrack, and he was doing a fundraiser for another classmate of ours named Bill Plants. Bill was gored by a bull recently, and right now he's in St. Luke's Hospital in Cedar Rapids and has no feeling from his chest down. So we were out there trying to raise money for Bill because he's a friend of ours, and that's what Iowans do. So one of the things I'm very proud of is last week the president signed a bill into law that's going to help wounded warriors who are coming home and face a different life and need some help with getting their homes retrofitted to take care of them. And that bill I introduced was called the Andrew Connolly Veterans Housing Act. Andrew Connolly served with the Iowa National Guard in Iraq. He came home, he married his high school sweetheart, he had a child, and then he was diagnosed with the rare form of spinal cancer. And his family contacted us because they were concerned that their tiny home was not going to be able to accommodate him once he had to move into a wheelchair. Well, we worked with the family, and because of the work of my great staff, he was able to get a Veterans Housing Adaptability Grant so that he, along with his family and friends, could move into a different home that would accommodate his wheelchair. And he was able to live in that home for nearly a year before he died last August. And Andrew came out and testified because that housing grant was scheduled to expire. And when he testified in front of the Veterans Affairs Committee, you could have heard a pin drop as he told his story and why this was so important. And right behind Andrew was his wife, Jenny, and Jenny was holding in her arms their son, Brody, who just turned 4 and who is profoundly disabled himself. So for this family, that Veterans Adaptability Program was a lifeline. And Andrew wanted to make sure that it was extended for other wounded warriors. Well, even though he died a year ago, on almost the exact anniversary of his death and on his 29th birthday, President Obama signed the Andrew Connolly Veterans Housing